You're listening to News Talk Saga 960. Also streaming live on saga960am.ca.
You are listening to New Theory Radio. New Theory Radio.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural edition of New Theory Radio here on our new home of Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa. I'm your host, and I'm very excited to be here with you on this Sunday afternoon, approaching Sunday evening. This is the very first episode of New Theory Radio here on Saga 960, and Raptors fever is currently in the air. Everyone's super excited, and I myself am having quite the busy Sunday. And if you're just tuning in to New Theory Radio and you're wondering what is this show and who is this person talking, the show is where we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. And each and every week I'll be joined by a brand new panel of guests to theorize on just about everything. You know, we'll talk about politics, we'll talk about pop culture, we'll talk about current affairs, we'll talk about just everyday life, you name it. Everything is up for grabs on New Theory Radio each and every Sunday at 5 p.m. here on Saga 960. And today's show is an exciting one. This coming Friday, the city of Brampton is actually hosting another showcase at this year's North by Northeast Festival. And if you're not familiar with North by Northeast, it's an annual music and gaming festival held across downtown Toronto, and it's currently in its 25th year. And the city of Brampton will be hosting their This Is Brampton showcase, which will be happening at the Hideout in downtown Toronto. And this is an opportunity for the city to showcase some amazing artists that are from the city of Brampton, and I'm actually going to be joined by four of them live here at Saga 960 to talk about not only their careers, but to also theorize, because that's what we do here on New Theory Radio. We theorize on things about the city, about the actual arts and culture, and how arts and culture scenes are really defining local municipalities, because, you know, the city of Brampton is not the only city that's going to be having a showcase at this year's North by Northeast. So it's truly wonderful to see that. As well, we're going to be talking about the Drake effect. It's no secret that Drake himself is making a lot of news, but especially when it comes to the current NBA Finals run that the Raptors are on. But we're going to dive deep and we're going to theorize on whether or not the Drake effect is real when it comes to Canadian artists coming up within the music industry, especially now that Drake is approaching 10 years on top. I'm going to pick the brains of these artists and ask them if they feel that Drake himself and his impact on the music industry has allowed artists like themselves to really prosper and become successful. And, you know, just a little bit about me before we sort of jump to our commercial break. So my name is Nav Nanwa. I've been a local media host now for about 5 years. I was on Rogers TV initially. And the concept of New Theory Radio really came about as a way for me to ignite conversation amongst people within my network. I not only do I have a local media background, but I myself also have a background in marketing, brand marketing, as well. I'm also a curator with it, when it comes to arts and culture in both Brampton and Mississauga. So I have a huge passion when it comes to arts and culture, which makes today's episode very exciting. And realistically, the whole concept of New Theory Radio is really to bring these people together, allow them to talk about not only what's going on in the world, but really share their perspective. Because I find nowadays we live in the era of the hot take. Everyone has an opinion on something. Everyone wants to know why things happen the way that they do. And I wanted to create a platform to really showcase that, because I myself love a very good conversation. But we are actually going to take a quick break. And then when I come back, I'm actually going to bring on two of the artists I'll be performing at This Is Brampton showcase that's happening this Friday. And so we'll be right back here on New Theory Radio on Saga 960.
Theory Radio.
I'm your host, Nav Nanwa. And like I mentioned earlier, we are really excited because this coming Friday, the city of Brampton is hosting the This is Brampton Showcase, which is a part of this year's North by Northeast. It's the second annual showcase the city of Brampton is putting together. And on this week's show, the very first episode of New Theory Radio on Saga 960, we're actually going to be speaking to a bunch of the artists that will be participating in this year's showcase. And we're going to start with two just now. I got sitting on my right, she's originally from Nigeria. She moved to Brampton at the age of 11 and from a young age had a passion for writing. She's a rising R&B star. Actually, I was listening to her music as I was heading in. Super dope. And I'm very excited to speak with her. You know, some of her influences include some of my favorite artists like Lauryn Hill, Erykah Badu, and India Arie. And she's here to tell me why Brampton has such a negative stigma associated with it. Zenesoul, everybody. Zen, thank you so much for coming on New Theory Radio.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on here.
Yeah. I'm so happy you dressed up. I feel like I should have wore better clothes today. Yeah, Zen's she actually showed up wearing a full suit. So
I love suits. I wear them a lot.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I do.
Female empowerment. It's
and
a good power
clothes.
Suit.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good power suit. And then I got someone who's no stranger to Saga 960 as well as, I guess, the hip-hop scene within Brampton, within Peel, within the world. I've had the pleasure of working with this artist many times. I got to go to Austin, Texas with him a few years ago for South by Southwest, which is the American equivalent of North by. And he's truly killing it. He's coming off of an amazing year being featured in Vice, being featured with Major League Soccer, releasing his long-awaited album with producer Dusty Loops, and he's actually going to be one of the headliners for the This is Brampton showcase. Give it up for rapper Noyz. Noyz, thanks so much for coming back, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Nav.
Yeah. It's just, you were on the original incarnation of New Theory Radio. Now you're joining me for the very first episode of this new incarnation.
Yeah, your studios keep stepping up.
This is actually a really fancy studio. I'm not gonna lie. No, I'm very happy to have both you guys on. Let's just get right into it. You know, at the end of the day, when it comes to the city of Brampton, there's definitely a wave that's taking place. And me growing up in the city of Brampton, I felt like when I was younger, the city over time has become a lot cooler than what it was before when I was growing up. You know, I never thought about hanging out in the city of Brampton, and I never really thought about actually wanting to listen to artists from the city of Brampton because, quite frankly, you're growing up with so much around you. You don't really think about it too much. But nowadays, you're seeing such a booming scene take place. But the one thing I will say is when I go out and tell people that I'm from Brampton, and I'm very proud to tell people that I'm from the city of Brampton, I still get this weird look sometimes, like, oh, you're from Brampton? Oh, really? You're from Brampton? And I wanted to really pick both your brains about that because as artists, it's not just a stigma that exists amongst people that live here, but when you're an artist, sometimes it gets attached to the art that you're putting out as well, because there's this negative notion, which I don't know where it came from, but if you guys have an idea, feel free to share it. But I wanted to start off by theorizing on the stigma that's associated with Brampton and just what both of your thoughts are. And Zen, maybe we'll begin with you. When you tell someone you're from Brampton, what's usually the look on their face, and what do you usually say to them after?
They say like "ill" or something like that, and I really don't understand. I really don't get why, because it makes no sense to me, especially like Six Buzz. Every time I'm on Six Buzz, someone's insulting Brampton, and like it just gets me so irritated. I don't know, but I think it's because we're better than the other cities.
Oh yeah, actually.
So because of that, they're hating on us. Yeah. Because like, look at how many people are coming out from Brampton, like in the music scene, and not even just music scene, but like basketball and stuff like that, right? So I don't know if that's why they hate on Brampton, but also because I guess it's just homes.
Yeah, exactly.
Brampton is just like homes. There's no buildings, not much, no condos, nowhere to really like hang out. Yeah. Except for like the soccer center.
Oh, is that where you hang out?
Like when I was younger, like the soccer center was like the scene. I don't know where else. Oh, and the poutine place. I keep forgetting the name.
Yeah, they just closed down actually, unfortunately. Yeah, the one downtown Brampton, right? Yeah. Dare to be Fresh just closed down, unfortunately.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But sorry to break that to you.
There's nowhere else to like really hang out and like do stuff. Like even if you wanted like an artist to perform in Brampton, where are they going?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, because of that, people just look at it as, oh, it's whack. Like Mississauga has Marilyn Monroe building. Yeah. We don't have an iconic thing. So maybe that's why.
It's funny you mentioned the Marilyn Monroe buildings because it got me thinking about just even that structure. Like that building in general just gets scrutinized because of people that bought into that building and unfortunately didn't get the right investment. But, you know, I think about John River, like he did his music video outside of that building because it's so synonymous with the city. Like it was that type of landmark where you knew where he was from because they have something like that that's noticeable. Noyz, when it comes to you, because I remember when we went to South by Southwest a few years ago in Austin, Texas, we never told people we were from Toronto. We told them we were from Brampton. And so people were like, really? Like, what does that mean? So how do you usually describe Brampton to people?
I mean, it's certainly changed a lot in the last few years. I feel like historically, you know, like Zen was saying, it is pretty much like a sleeper suburb. You know, people live here, but they don't work here. You work somewhere else, and then you come back home, you go to bed, you go about your routine again. So like you're saying, I think you made a great point. There was nothing really to do out there. Like at least Mississauga, you have that, you know, the Marilyn Monroe Towers. That's kind of like their visual landmark you can associate with them. Like people look at the CN Tower for Toronto or like Empire State Building for New York. But like Brampton, like what are you going to point to? You're going to point to like Bramley City Center? You know what I mean? Like, so I think there's a lot of different factors into that. But I think one article I read, and this one's like always kind of stuck with me, and it talks about how, you know, different cities, different pockets in the GTA kind of have this negative stigma attached to them, and they get referred to as ghettos. So one of them was Scarborough, one of them was Brampton. So even though Brampton is, for the most part, you know, fairly middle class, well-to-do, like it does certainly have its low-income pockets. But so the argument that this author put forth was the reason why an area like Brampton and Scarborough get called ghettos is because they have such a higher population of people of color and racialized communities that live within that city. And because of that, like, there's certainly a racial connotation sometimes when people refer to an area as a ghetto. If you see, if there's more black people there or more South Asian people there, people kind of, you know, there's a stigma that gets attached to that. And so I feel like, I don't know if that ties into the way other pockets within the GTA will kind of refer to Brampton and say, oh, another L, or, you know, whatever jokes they want to throw out. But I certainly think there's some validity to that, the way the demographic breakup or breakdown of a city can kind of paint it in a certain light.
That's a really good point you bring up, because I remember starting university and people, you know, that first week during Frost Week, you're meeting new people and people go up to like, oh, where are you from? People say Toronto, Burlington. When you say Brampton, right away, like they would either crack a joke or they would say, oh, Brampton, I've heard of that place. But I even see, I like the fact that you brought up race within that, because I would talk to other South Asians that weren't from Brampton, and already I would feel like they were looking down on me because I was living in an area that was, you know, predominantly diverse. And they felt, to your point, they felt like it was the ghetto, or they felt like it was lower class when it actually wasn't. Because when my parents came to Brampton, they didn't come here, you know, because, you know, they were forced to be here. They came here because there was an opportunity to come here and raise their family here and actually get, you know, a house for the first time. But I find that fascinating, and I find it interesting you make the parallel with Scarborough, because I personally feel anybody from Scarborough gets where we come from when it comes to people looking down on us. I feel like
people from Scarborough, they're very protective of Scarborough.
They are.
The same way people from Brampton are very protective of being from Brampton.
And I feel just recently, a lot of us have become very protective about Brampton. Are you protective about Brampton?
I'm so protective.
Yeah.
And I find it's mainly the Mississauga kids that have a problem with Brampton.
I found that too.
I find it's really them. But Scarborough, I wouldn't say they get as much L's as Brampton does, though. I don't like.
Scarborough's always perceived as like. I
don't hear people say L's for Brampton. I hear the ghetto for, Scarborough, but I don't really hear the L's.
So Scarborough, to me, was always perceived as being like a rough neighborhood.
Yeah.
Where if you came out of Scarborough, all of a sudden you automatically had street cred.
Exactly.
It was like, okay, I don't want to mess with this person. Like, they're probably going to make me disappear, right? Well, Brampton, there's always, like, the one common thing about Brampton, and I think it goes back to the landmark conversation we had, was just the suburb aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think the fact that we had a lot of new immigrant families move to Brampton like in the mid 90s and all these suburbs started popping up and the city started to look the same everywhere. Do you feel like that was one of the reasons why the city just gets slept on all the time, is just the appearance of it?
Could be. I mean, there certainly are a lot of things about Brampton that we wish we could change. Like obviously arts and culture was one of them, but even that's a great point you bring up, just the way the houses are built. You could be in a neighborhood in Brampton and you might not have any idea where you actually are because there's 5-6 other neighborhoods that look the exact same.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that could certainly tie into it. It's kind of like, to some extent, it's like a cookie cutter neighborhoods being popped up everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like everything kind of looks the same.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, I kind of look at it like people probably look down on Brampton because they don't come to Brampton. They have no reason to come to Brampton.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're
There's no
always
reason
going out of Brampton to work, but no one comes into Brampton to work.
Exactly.
So it's like they don't know about us.
Yeah.
So because of that, they just talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the great point you bring up too. Like when we're working on Immigrant Hustle podcast, we had Wei Ting, who's from Scarborough. We had him come down to Brampton to be on the show. And he was like, you know what? I don't think I've ever actually been in Brampton. And even recently, like City of Brampton had an event where different like industry professionals were there. And we had someone from Blue Crane Agency.
Was that the Connecting Communities event?
Yes, yeah. So she was there. And again, it was her first time in Brampton, but she was like, I've never had a reason to come here. And I think now we're starting to see that change where people that work for the city and work in arts and culture, they're trying to give people a reason to come out here now.
Yeah. One of my buddies is Demetrius Nath, who runs an organization called Mississauga Music, and he's very much deep into the hard rock, alternative rock scene.
Yeah.
And one of the things that one of the reasons why he started Mississauga Music was because, back in the day, and this also pertains to hip hop and urban music as well, is that a lot of people typically rep their legit hometowns versus repping like the major city centers.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big thing in rock.
And it was like, for example, I don't know who, none really come to mind, but when you ask like Nirvana where they're from, like, they're not from, even though they say they're from Seattle, like they're from like a small suburb near Seattle.
Yeah.
And it almost provides that credibility around, I'm not going to say I'm from so-and-so, I'm actually from here. And same goes in hip hop as well. Like, I think, I know you were watching the Wu-Tang documentary, and I remember watching Hip Hop Evolution on Netflix with Chad K. And they were talking about how Staten Island just was the forgotten borough of New York, but they needed to represent that because that was home. Because it was very easy for them to say I'm from Manhattan or I'm from, Brooklyn. But I find that, like, do you find that as artists, repping Brampton, promoting it when you're out about when you're not in the city, when you're out performing in other areas, that repping Brampton kind of adds to the character of who you are as an artist? And then Zen's nodding her head, yes.
Yeah, for sure. At first, it's like I didn't care to.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't come to me as something like that was important.
Yeah.
And because, like, I felt like a lot of people didn't know what Brampton was, so I would just say, I'm from Toronto, GTA area,
GTA area, that's a classic.
But then now I'm kind of like, no, I'm from Brampton.
Yeah.
I'm from Brampton. So
do you use that as a point of differentiation now?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of, like, just to show, like, so many talent is coming out of Brampton. So I just say it. So it's like, I'm from there. So just recognize.
Yeah,
pretty much it.
Yeah. I love the Brampton swagger that Zen has. I wish this was a TV show so you guys could see it.
No, because, like, I'm honestly so fed up with, like, the hate Brampton gets. Like, I really don't understand where it's coming from. So it's like now I'm more like, I'm from Brampton, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We kind of have that, kind of Scarborough mentality, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a great parallel you draw, too, with Staten Island.
Yeah.
Because, like, Brampton's kind of, it's on the outskirts of Toronto. Staten Island, it's kind of on the outskirts of, like, Brooklyn and, like, Queens, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
You kind of gotta take the ferry to get to Staten Island.
Yeah.
Gotta take the 410 to get out here, which is just as bad.
Which is horrendous.
Right? So I think that's a great parallel you draw there. And I think, like, Wu-Tang, they made it a point to say, like, we're from Staten Island. Even though certain members were from Brooklyn, they said, like, no, we're all going to collectively claim Staten Island because this is an area that's been overlooked for so long.
Yeah.
And I see that now with Brampton artists, like, for the artists that are on the showcase this year and even last year, they've made that point now to claim the city and say, this is where we're from when we're part of the, this wave that is creating a new change now. And so, we're going to continue to rep it.
One thing, Noyz, I've seen you push through in a lot of your music is this whole mentality of, like, the Brampton underdogs. Like, that was something that I remember you had T-shirts and were really representing that. Do you feel like and Zen, I want you to comment on this too. Do you feel like this underdog mentality is innately within us now, and that whenever we're trying to go out and make moves, you almost have to have this underdog mentality is almost a blessing in disguise, because it makes you more hungry knowing that you're from a city that gets scrutinized, and that, you know, because you want to push your art through, it's providing you more motivation to want to break through and get some of those accolades that you guys deserve?
I honestly feel like being from Brampton, like when you say it, when you're like you're an artist, I feel like it's better, to be honest, because I feel like Toronto's so saturated.
Yeah.
And just being from Brampton, it's like, this is one in the few that's coming out, right? So I don't look at it as a negative.
It's just you and Alessia Cara, right?
Yep. No. Isn't Daniel Caesar from Brampton too? No?
I don't know. Is he?
I heard he's from like Oshawa or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. But there's a lot of like, there's somebody else. I don't know. I can't remember.
Well,
right
we got
now.
Roy Woods. Roy Woods.
Yeah.
Yes,
Brampton.
exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of talent coming out from Brampton. So I kind of like, I'm like proud of it at this point. Like even Tristan Thompson's from Brampton.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
What's up?
Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah, he married a Kardashian. Oh, he did. Yeah, no, he just had a kid with her. Okay. Noyz, what about you, man?
Yeah, I certainly think like if you're a Brampton artist, it takes a lot, because there's not really, like you said, there's not a lot of venues or stages that you can go to check out to see local artists perform here.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot to make an effort to go downtown Toronto on a weeknight. Like, it's a big time commitment, energy commitment. So I feel like if you're putting that effort forth, is like, it's a different toll that you're also carrying, in addition to making sure that your art is on point.
No,
you're taking on this extra energy that you're investing into just getting down to be part of something, to see something. And I feel like if you're from Brampton, if you're from like these surrounding areas, that's, as an artist, like, we carry on this additional workload. Whereas like if you're already part of the city, you walk out your door and you can walk down to a venue. So there's so much more that we got to do just to be part of the scene. And now I think it's a beautiful thing. It's like we had to go out to see stuff. Now it's starting to change now, where we can start to have our own culture and our own scene in our own backyard now.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be the next topic that we talk about after we get back from commercial break. But just one last final question. What are both of you guys doing when it comes to changing that stigma? So is there anything that you do in the way that you put your work out there, or the way that you carry yourself, where you try to change that stigma that exists with the city? Because I think ultimately change only happens from within, and allowing us to become the ambassadors that we are. Like, I rep Brampton like no tomorrow. Like, Brampton's in my Twitter feeds and my Instagram. Like, everything's Brampton. But what are you doing necessarily to change that? Zen, what are you doing?
For example, this showcase, a lot of artists, even if they're from Brampton, would see it and not want to even be part of it because of just the stigma that's attached to Brampton. But by just repping it and performing and showing like you love repping your city, it's like changing things, right? Because if your peers see you doing that, then they start to do it as well, right? And if they start seeing people from Brampton actually doing stuff in Brampton and making it big in Brampton, then it's going to push other people to want to do the same.
Exactly. So. Awesome. Noyz, what about you?
Yeah. I think, I rep it wherever I go. If I'm in the States, if I'm in the UK, I always say I'm from Brampton. And I think it's like that. I feel like a lot of Toronto artists had to do it back in the day, where if they had to make it, they had to go out to the States or internationally, and then they brought it back. So whatever they gained, they brought it back home. And I feel like I've been able to do that a little bit, when MLS came through or when Vice came through, they paid attention because people were coming from Brampton and going out abroad and still repping it and still claiming it and getting their accolades, getting their notoriety, and then bringing it back home. So I feel like once your craft is at a certain level, people can't help but take notice. And then when they do take notice, they start to see there is this kind of this subculture bubbling here. So I think just continuing to not to hide it, just say where you're from, take pride in where you're from, and just make sure that whatever craft you're pursuing, whether it's music, whether it's photography, videography, whatever it is you're doing, keep it at a high level so that people take notice of you and they start to take notice of all those hundreds of people that are behind you at the same time.
Amazing. Now I want to shift the conversation a little bit. And Noyz, you were kind of talking about this before I went to commercial break. And it's really the fact that arts and culture now is being used as a tool to really allow local cities to flourish and to really promote not only citizens, but to also use it as a way for tourism, and use it as a way to grow businesses, use it as a way to really allow these cities to put themselves on a map and really grow and compete with some of the major city centers that exist around us. And, Brampton was ahead of its curve. This is actually, and I'll say this, the city of Brampton was ahead of its curve last year by providing this showcase at North by Northeast, the only city that had a showcase. And this year, from my knowledge, it seems that not only is Brampton showcasing artists, but you got Saskatchewan out here showcasing artists, because I believe they have a showcase. I also believe that none of it has a showcase as well, which is truly, truly phenomenal. And I for me, being that I've been to South by Southwest before, and I've seen the fact that a lot of these showcases are generally focused around collectives, I like this angle that North by is taking when it comes to focusing on cities, because I think that's where it really begins. So what I wanted to get both of your theories on is really around arts and culture being used as a way to grow cities and allow them to show, to really invest in their talent. And Noyz, we'll begin with you. Coming up in the city of Brampton, it's no secret that a lot of these resources weren't necessarily available right at the beginning, but now we're starting to see them come through. What's your theory as to why this has become so important, and how do you feel about some of the resources that are being offered to artists like yourselves?
I definitely think some of the change that we are starting to see has kind of come from the fact that the city was, at a time, very slow to notice what was actually happening with artists. Like, you had people like we mentioned, Alessia Cara, Roy Woods, Rupikor, artists like that were blowing up, doing amazing things, and they did it without the support of the city. And then it kind of took them to make it elsewhere in order for, people in Brampton to claim them back. And it's like, well, they were already doing things before they got to a certain level where they could take it internationally. Why were you guys so behind, as far as supporting them? Like, why did you need that external validation before you claim them as your own? And I think we are starting to see that change in the tides. And I think this North by Northeast showcase is one of the signs of that. Now we're seeing artists that, for example, like the artists on last year's showcase, this year's showcase, some of them I hadn't even heard of before until the showcase lineup was announced, which I think is an amazing thing, because, they didn't have to go for the obvious names. They went for names that we might not have heard. And I think that shows that the city is now really putting more of initiative towards getting behind those artists and really supporting them on their way up, rather than claiming them after they've already hit a certain level. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Everybody listens to music. Everybody consumes art in some way or another. And I think it certainly means more, especially as a kid, to see artists or to hear artists that are from where you're from. Growing up, I didn't really like going to like the Karasaga or the Karabram events, because I felt like it didn't really speak to me. There was nobody that, the music that they had there didn't really speak to the music I was listening to, and the artists they had, it just wasn't something I really connected with. So I feel like now the city of Brampton is kind of presenting the arts or doing things that will allow people that actually live in Brampton to connect with the music in a certain way. It's being presented in a way that's more in line with how people already consume arts and culture. So I feel like they're finally catching up to the curve and actually getting ahead of the curve now. Whereas, I've done shows where, I was on a bill, but like it wasn't really promoted in such a way, or it wasn't the right venue, it wasn't the right crowd. So it was like, sometimes you kind of feel like, what am I even doing here? Right.
Yeah,
but now I feel like with like this North by Northeast showcase, you're putting it in a venue, you're putting it on a stage, you're presenting it in such a way that people will actually want to come to it.
Especially North by, like, it's still a big deal for artists to play North by Northeast. Like this, and that's the one thing that, that I love about the city getting behind this, is the fact that, this festival, this show could potentially make one or all of your careers based on who might be in the audience, who might be, popping in just to, take a listen. Because, we remember even being at South by, you had industry people just roaming around, just wanting to seek out new music. Yeah. And I love the fact that Brampton's doing this, because to your point, I've been a part of different festivals in the city of Brampton, as well as Mississauga, Toronto, where a lot of it is focused on bringing all the niches together and creating a variety show. But to your point, it doesn't speak to everybody.
Yeah.
I think ultimately you need focus. I think the city of Brampton's done a great job. And I think a lot of that probably is because of the fact that they've seen the artists that have come out of the city and they've noticed just what the wave is like. Zen, I want to get your perspective on this because, you know, you yourself, your influences are a lot more of the neo soul type. And you're definitely, when it comes to, and what I love about actually the showcase this Friday is that everybody has a unique sound to them. You know, when I think about the sound that you're bringing, when I think about the sound that Kay's bringing, what Reeko's bringing, what Noyz and Stay Out Late's bringing, like there's such a unique sound, but there is that bond of hunger that unites all you guys together to make that show so cohesive. So I want to get your thoughts, you know, as an artist, not even born in Brampton, originally from Nigeria, and now coming to Canada and seeing these opportunities. How does it make you feel that the city itself is investing in you?
Makes me feel good that they have faith in me, actually. Like they see a potential. And when you feel like your city sees a potential in you, then you feel like anywhere could see a potential in you, right? So just for them to be backing up artists, it's like they have faith in us that we can bring the noise to Brampton. We don't have the structures to bring the noise to Brampton, but we have talent that can bring people into Brampton. And it's like we're losing a lot of the youth because a lot of the youth are moving to like Toronto and other areas because they feel like that's where they can blow or that's where they'll be heard. But by supporting artists here, you're keeping them here. You're showing them like, we support you, stay here, and we'll make sure, like, you know?
Yeah. No, I love that point that you made because it's just like anybody who's working a day job outside of Brampton, but they live in Brampton. They feel like there isn't too much opportunity at home.
There's nothing holding them here.
Yeah. So I got to go to Toronto. I got to go to other places to make that living. Because I know artists that I've grown up with that at the time were very much committed to their craft. But then again, these showcases had never existed. So for them, I'm going to go move to Toronto. I'm going to grind it out. I'm going to network. I'm going to do the open mics. I'm going to play the shows. I'm going to take every single opportunity. I'm going to every single show, every single conference. And now what's great is that narrative's changing because you have showcases like this. After as well as kind of speaking from representatives of the city as well, you know, I love the fact that all these smaller collectives now are doing shows like Brampton's very own Sound Drive Records. Yeah. Like the Rose Theater specifically, which is a venue that's so prestigious, is now opening its doors to indie artists, which is making it exciting. If you could change one thing about this narrative, what would it be?
I don't know. I feel like change is going to take time. And I feel like the city is on the right path. Yeah. Like for the Rose Theater, for example, like that, as a rapper, I never felt like that was a venue I could play. You know, I never felt like that was a space that I could ever showcase what I do, you know, within the context of that stage. But, you know, a couple years ago, we did the Lo-Fi Glory exhibit. Yeah. And then earlier this year, I had a chance to actually perform on that stage with the Pavitr Fund. So I feel like the city, not even just, you know, with the North by Northeast showcase, but other platforms like the Rose Theater, like Garden Square, they're opening up to other art forms that have kind of been marginalized or deemed, you know, unsafe. Typically, Garden Square, I always thought of it as like a space where rock bands would go or a folk artist or something. You wouldn't expect to see hip hop there or R&B. Yeah. But now we're starting to see those change. Like you mentioned with Sound Drive, with Brampton's very own. They're like smaller collectives, but they're really, in my opinion, I feel like they're doing huge work as far as opening doors to allow hip hop to exist in places and exist within communities that didn't really understand it and didn't really want it on its stages. But now it took these smaller collectives to really say, you know, like, this is what the people that live here are listening to. This is how they consume it. So let's present it to them in such a way that it will foster future growth for arts and culture within the city. So shout out to those collectives, man. They're really doing a lot of important work as far as changing how we perceive arts and how we perceive, you know, how tangible art can be. Because I think it means a lot when, you know, you look at what is there to do in your city and you can check out a show literally down the street from where you're living. I think that means a lot. And, you know, shout out to those collectives, man. That's really important work, because when I was growing up, seeing artists like, even if I don't even know where they were from, but as long as they claimed Toronto, that made me feel like to pursue music was real and it was tangible. And it felt like it was something I could do. But to even break it down on an even more macro level and say, these are artists that are actually from your community. Like they go to your community centers. They've been to your high schools. Like that makes it even so much more real to say, like, you know, these people came from the exact same place that I came from. So, and they're on this stage. I can get to that level too. And I think that's so important, especially for younger artists that are kind of, you know, still developing as far as what they want to do. And to go to a place within their own city, within their own backyard, and, you know, interact with an artist and actually ask them questions and, you know, just try to gain more knowledge. It's, I think as a way to check out performances and also as a form of knowledge exchange is definitely very important.
It's so important because, to your point, again, it's no secret, like living in any suburb across the country, like if you're not surrounded by people that are from the same areas that are doing the things that you want to do, it can be discouraging a little bit, because you almost feel trapped. You almost feel it's not possible, that, you know, getting out of these areas is difficult, and that's, people get a little defensive, and that's when they move or try to pursue opportunities elsewhere. When it came to your crafts, then how did you sort of go about it before you connected with the city? Like, what was your mentality with your music in regards to how you wanted people to hear it, and what were you doing to promote yourself?
I wanted people to hear my music as kind of therapy, or as a way to just listen to me and hear like what I've gone through. And a lot of times I feel like I'm talking to my own self through my music, and I'm not listening. Yeah. And in the process of me talking to myself, I'm hoping somebody else takes from it and stuff like that. And I've been trying to promote myself through that connection. So I go to like a lot of open mics. Nice. Because I feel like that allows me to actually talk and like use music as kind of...
as a language?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I've been kind of going about it. But as I said, you have to go to like Toronto for that. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I don't want to have to go all the way to Toronto just to, and it's like when you're in Toronto, sorry. It's okay. You're surrounded by, the studio. I'm breaking it up. You're surrounded by people that don't like know you.
Yeah, exactly.
But like if you're in Brampton, you can say to your friends, oh, come check me out. I'm going to be performing here, and it's not far from home. They would come. But if you have to go all the way to Toronto, people are going to have a harder time going there, right? So it's like you're not surrounded by your people. You don't get to perform to your people. So it's kind of been hard because of that. But as Noyz said, a lot of people have been trying to build stuff here. Like there's a Golden Mic Thursdays now in Brampton. Okay. So you can do like open mics there. Yeah. I think the first one for this year started last Thursday. So a lot of people go, and it's like what they do in Toronto, but here. So it's like a lot of people are taking the initiatives and trying to do that here. So, yeah.
No, and I personally love that, because that's the one thing that I've always have spoken to anybody from the city about, was just space. Like there needs to be more spaces. Like that's what I think, that's where the Roast Theater Studio came out of. It was just, we have this space, let's open it up to all these local collectives, let's get artists in there. But even, you know, I look at the Heritage Theater, like I know it's a sensitive topic, and I'm sure anyone from the city listening to this is probably not gonna be happy about it. But that's a theater that I went to growing up, and I've, you know, if I had it my way, like I would make that like the indie venue that we have in Brampton, as where someone's there every week just doing a headlining show, and it just becomes that you know, collaborative environment. Because I think that's like the more space you have, I think the more people are, you know, to your point, then people are going to want to come out.
Exactly.
That's why I love the fact that the open mics are coming up. I also am really appreciative, and I'm more so speaking from like a curator standpoint when I put together shows. I love the fact that there's now like Facebook groups focused around the Brampton music scene. Yeah. Focused in around where gigs are taking place.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's one, I think it's like Brampton Music something. I think one of the city folks has actually done it. And what's good is, you know, anybody who's looking for artists for any show can even just post up something on there and they can get connected. And, you know, what I remember, so this showcase, I know for a fact, got like over 50 submissions, like a lot of submissions.
Yeah.
And the one thing that after speaking with the city about that really excited me was the fact that even though some artists didn't make it to this showcase, that's still a roster of artists that they can, you know, go to for future shows.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that network is so important. It's so important because how else are artists from Brampton going to get better unless they get opportunities to showcase, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just looking at the time here, I think we have about 10 minutes. Just wanted to, when it comes to the fact that North by Northeast is not only showcasing Brampton, but they're showcasing other cities. What does that mean to you? Does that excite you even from like a networking standpoint that potentially at the showcase on Friday, you might be in front of people that are from Nunavut or Saskatchewan or other places? Because I know, for example, Noyz working with you, you know, you've been approached to do shows in Vancouver, Winnipeg, all over the place. And for me, what's fascinating is that you see things like that happening outside of Toronto, because it's very easy within the GTA to be trapped in a bubble and only assuming that all the best things happen in Toronto because you're surrounded by so much. But then you get events like North by that are really focusing on promoting other cities. So from a networking standpoint, what does that mean to you?
From a networking standpoint, it's really important. Because I feel sometimes that artists that are from the GTA, we focus so much on trying to make connections within Toronto. We kind of, you know, put blinders on into what's happening in the other parts of the country, or even other parts of the world. So I've been lucky enough to go out west to perform, go to the States, go to the UK. But yeah, the opportunities to bring artists together from other parts of Canada or other parts of North America is really important, especially for independent artists, because, you know, that's a potential market now that you can go do a show in. You know, that's a place where you can try to build a fan base. Like for example, a couple of years ago, we did Canadian Music Week, and we got a chance to perform with a group from Saskatchewan. Actually, they might even be on that showcase that you're talking about. Oh,
really?
Yeah, the Samurai Champs. So yeah, we got a chance to connect with them, and they're like, you know, anytime you're out in Saskatchewan, just give us a shout. Like, you know, we'll put you on a bill with us or something. And same thing, every time they're out here, they're always trying to reach out to me or reach out to Dusty or Magic and try to get an opportunity just to even sit and build. So it's huge, man. Even like recently for this past Canadian Music Week, we had an artist from the UK who I was put in touch with, and you know, just went to go sit with him. And like, he works for BBC Radio, so we just sat down and just kind of tried to understand what each other's cities are like and what the music scene is like. And I feel like once you build those connections, it allows you to kind of navigate some of the pitfalls that do exist. We're kind of on the same boat where it's like, you know, we're putting out music, but how do we get on more stages? And so he's trying to build something out here in Toronto. And I told him that I've been building a little bit of a following out in London, out in the UK. So building those mutual connections is so important, not even just for the fact that that's a city that you can go to, but I feel like just having that camaraderie with another artist and kind of knowing that whatever kind of brick walls that you feel like you're butting your head up against here, you know, there's someone on the other side of the world that's going through the exact same thing out there, right? So everybody's kind of in this grind together. So I feel like it means a lot, even as far as not even just networking, but also just as far as solidarity. And, you know, you're watching somebody else's wins and you know how hard they're grinding to get those wins.
And I feel like within sort of Canadian music, and I'm using the urban music as an example here, a lot of that was seen like early on. Like when you think about, you know, one of my favorite eras of hip hop is just that Canadian era of hip hop, like in mid 90s all the way to early 2000s, when you had the Rascals, Cardinal, Choclair, Thrust. I'll even throw Classified in that too, because you had Rascals repping Vancouver, you had, you know, Choclair and everybody repping sort of Toronto and GTA, and then you had, you know, people like Classified representing the Atlantic, and all of a sudden, because they noticed each other's movements, they decided to come together, and it was so much easier to collaborate and do tours, because it's one thing to, you know, obviously everyone wants more performance opportunities at home, but it's another thing to actually go out and rep your city in other provinces, other cities. What about you, Zen? What are your thoughts on just sort of the networking that comes with you representing Brampton this coming Sunday for North by?
Friday.
Friday. Hey, Friday.
I find that when you're not looking for something, like it skips you. So before I started doing music and like actually promoting myself, I did not notice any artist from Brampton or even from Toronto, to be honest, unless you're like Drake or something. I really didn't notice artists.
Yeah.
But once you start doing music, then you start like randomly pages like maybe on Instagram will come to you, right? So unless you're looking for that thing, it doesn't really come to you. So I don't really get the chance of bumping into artists from outside of Brampton, especially because if, for example, in your caption, you're putting Brampton hashtags, Instagram just automatically starts posting Brampton people, right? So you don't get to see other people from other countries or other provinces and what they're doing. So by being at this showcase and getting to meet those other people, it's kind of cool because you could collaborate. You never know. Someone could have the same vibe and feel as you somewhere else, and you guys can collaborate and put Canada on the map, not even just Brampton or Toronto or whatever, just Canada as a whole. So kind of excited about the collaboration part because you never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah, and it definitely adds to a bigger story. For sure. We only have about 5 minutes left in this segment, and when we come back, actually, we're going to welcome the other two artists that'll be joining you guys at the showcase. But, for the next 5 minutes, just wanted to ask the both of you, what can we expect on Friday at the North by Northeast showcase that's taking place at the Hideout? So, Zen, when it comes to your live show, if anyone's checking out Zenesoul for the very first time, what's the vibe that they should be expecting?
I'm trying to give like a intimate vibe, and like some of my songs I try to give like a rocker
feel to
it. Yeah, so I'm pretty much performing all my songs on my EP plus like 2 other songs, and I plan on just making them a little bit more personal in a way. So I'm gonna have like a drummer, bass, and a guitarist, and then a friend just doing some mixing in there.
Yeah.
So I just want an intimate vibe and just have everyone just hear me.
So you're probably gonna light some candles? Is that what's going on?
I would love to light some candles. If I could, I would love to literally put flowers on the stage with a candle, but I feel like that's just too much work.
You gotta call the city for the budget.
Yeah. I really want like an intimate setting and just a songversation.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Songversation.
Yeah. NewTheory uses that.
Oh, yeah? I was going to say, you should probably trademark that.
I know. But she has that.
Noyz, what about you? You're sharing the stage with 2 of your homies, Stay Out Late with Scotty and Trey. What can we expect, man, for Friday?
I mean, if anybody's ever seen Scotty and Trey on stage, it's energy, it's rowdy, it's lively. And I feel like I've been on stage with them many times before, so I feel like all 3 of us kind of bring different things to the table, and it allows us an opportunity to just kind of feed off each other's energies. So we have kind of different skill sets, different performing styles, but together it kind of works. I remember, I think it was last summer, where it was myself, Scotty, Trey, and Magic.
Yeah.
At Garden Square.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite shows that I've ever done.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah. So just the opportunity to be back on stage with those guys, I'm really looking forward to it. And just this past weekend, I was shooting a music video with Scotty and with Trey. And that kind of got me excited again. Because it's been so long since I've been on stage with them.
Yeah.
But just being in like the video shoot environment with them, it kind of, reminded me of what that energy is going to be like and kind of what I could even expect for this coming Friday. So, yeah, lots of energy. So be prepared to jump, be prepared to bounce if you're going to be in the crowd. Yeah, man, just fun. Like, it's always, as a performer, I look forward to performing with artists at their caliber because it forces me to step up. It makes me want to give even more when I'm performing with those guys. So, yeah, man, just trying to give it all that we can as far as energy and liveliness goes.
And that's the one thing that excites me about this show, too, is the fact that you got Zen with a more candlelit vibe slash rocker. We'll see. I'm curious to see the rocker vibe. And then you got the energy and wordsmith of both you, Scotty, and Trey. I think there's such a really diverse group that's going to be showcasing Brampton at North by Northeast at the Hideout on Friday. Are any of you treating this performance because of the magnitude of the fact that it's associated with North by Northeast? Are any of you treating it as almost your first performance, just to have that mentality going in of, hey, I want to knock this out the park because you never know what can come out of this?
I mean, I have been trying to get on this festival for like 3 years.
I was gonna say, yeah. You tried a lot.
I've tried many times. So it means a lot to finally be on it. But I'm just trying to enjoy the moment. Like, I don't want to attach any sort of expectation to it, because I feel like once you do, then you can sometimes be setting yourself up for disappointment. So I just kind of want to enjoy it. Like, I worked really hard to get to this point, and now that I'm finally here and I'm there with two of my friends, and doing it for the city too, just enjoy the moment and just have fun with it, and just try to, just allow myself to be as natural and in my element as I can be.
Amazing. Sam, what about you?
I'm so excited and so nervous at the same time, because I see it as like my first actual like big performance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So everything else I've done is like more open mics and restaurants.
Very intimate.
And and now this is like on a stage.
Okay.
So I'm kind of nervous, but I'm not too nervous. Like, I know I'll be fine.
I was going to say, I'm like, Sam's very chilled out. She's ready. Noyz very chilled out as well. Very chilled out environment here at the Saga 960 studios. I want to thank the both of you guys for joining me here on New Theory Radio. Best of luck this Friday at the This Is Brampton North by Northeast Showcase.
Thank you.
When we come back from commercial break, we are actually going to be joined by two other artists that will be joining the both of you. We're going to have Reeko Rieffe and K Music in the studio. I'm actually going to ask them about the same question I asked you guys regarding the arts and culture scene that's taking place in the city and how it's being promoted. As well, we're going to talk about the Drake effect, because some people feel like this Canadian urban thing only started 10 years ago when Drake popped off. So I want to get all of your perspectives on that. But we'll be right back with a brief commercial break here on Saga 960 New Theory Radio.
When I saw you in the club last night, couldn't get you off my mind. Gotta get to you tonight. Yeah. All
right, we are back here on New Theory Radio on Saga 960, the inaugural episode of New Theory Radio here on this wonderful radio station. I'm your host, Nav Nanwa, and we are talking about the This Is Brampton North by Northeast Showcase, which is taking place this Friday, June 7th at the Hideout in downtown Toronto. Yes, the city of Brampton, the Arts and Culture Division. Big shout outs for them putting this wonderful showcase together for the second year in a row. You just, if you're just tuning into New Theory for the last hour, we were talking with two artists, Noyz and Zenesoul. Now we're going to shift the conversation to two other amazing artists that are going to be performing this Friday. I want to start with the woman on my right. She is someone that's been performing in front of audiences since the age 4. She's truly has a passion for singing. Began actually singing in church, which is always, which once they got that church background, it's going to go far, because that's a big stage. And she's someone that really is becoming quite the juggernaut when it comes to reggae music. I got the beautiful K Music here in the building. K, what's going on?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
No,
so
anytime. We're super excited to have you here on New Theory Radio. And then we also got somebody who is definitely someone to watch out for 2019. His hits Same Ways and West Side have garnered a lot of attention, including outlets such as Flow 93.5, Ear Milk, as well as a little collective called OVO Sound. If you don't know what OVO is, please wake up. He has music running through his family lineage, and it was really destined for him to become a superstar, and he's going to be here, and he's actually here right now in the studio, and he's going to get ready for Friday. It's Reeko Rieffe. Reeko, what's up, man?
What's good, man? I'm so happy to be here, bro.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited to have the both of you. This is a big moment for the city. The second year in a row that the showcase is taking place. I mentioned earlier, like last year, Brampton was the only city to have a showcase like this. Now it's one of few, but it really paved the way for this to be possible. And I think a lot of it had to do with the success of last year's showcase, which is why North by, I think this year was like, we need to offer this up to more cities. And both of you really bring a diverse set of skills to the actual showcase itself. We got K repping the reggae, we got Reeko, you got a little bit of R&B, soul, and rap. So it's truly a diverse lineup when you think about what's being put together this Friday at the Hideout. But one of the things that we were just talking about with Noyz and Zen, your colleagues that are also going to be performing on Friday, was really the fact around the cities, actually municipal cities across the board, really getting behind their artists now. You know, again, it's no secret that a lot of artists had to feel like they have to move to Toronto to get their big break or go to the US. You know, for someone like Kay, you probably feel like, you know, when you're doing reggae that you might have to go to Jamaica to really make it big.
That's true.
And now it's coming local. Now it's all these resources are coming about, and it's becoming a lot easier now to get on big stages like North by Northeast. So I wanted to start off to get your theory as to why arts and culture has become so important to cities, and why you feel right now is a good time to really, you know, get into what your city's doing and really promote where you're from. And Kay, we'll begin with you.
Okay. Well, first, I'm actually surprised that you said Brampton had a showcase.
Oh, yeah?
I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
When was it?
Oh, it's this Friday.
Oh, you mean this one being the first one?
No, this is the second one.
This is the second one. So when was
last year.
Oh, you had it last year?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware. Actually, this was the first year that I was made aware of it.
Yeah.
But I believe that arts and culture, it's very, very important because of the fact that our community is so diverse. And then there's a lot of skills and talents that can be incorporated through the diversity. And I know initially Brampton was not that diverse back in the day. So the influx of the different cultures and everything, I think that's what makes us very unique. And I think that having that uniqueness and that diversity is what fuels arts and culture.
Exactly.
Right? Because culture, the word culture comes from diversity.
It does.
Right? So, it definitely goes hand in hand.
Especially, I love the fact that you mentioned that, because I remember just growing up in Brampton, you know, coming from a South Asian family. Obviously, I had neighbors from all over the world. It was really some of these cultural shows that would take place that really exposed you to different arts and culture and different vibes. And that's how you became friends with, like, your neighbors, because you kind of understood, you know, what Jamaican culture was all about, what Chinese culture was all about, because you had it around you in these different venues.
When I was growing up in Brampton, we had Carabram.
Yeah, very familiar with Carabram.
I don't know if that exists anymore.
It still does.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay. But that was something that we used to enjoy going to, because it was just so many different cultures in one place.
Yeah.
You had different foods, like food stations. You had different performers. Different performers doing different cultural dances, songs, and things like that. And at that age, you know, it was something that we as younger kids just would enjoy, just getting together and enjoying that. And I don't know if it's because I am older now, but I don't hear about Carabram. Like, literally, I don't hear about it. So that's why I was actually shocked that it was still around, because I know in my age group at that time, it was like a big thing. And I don't hear, I've never heard my son say anything about Carabram.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's probably because, like, people probably within our generation, like, nowadays, like, multiculturalism is so mainstream,
right?
Some of those avenues don't really resonate with us too much, because, you know, we have friends that are different cultures that we're already like all that stuff's already become norm to us.
Exactly.
And I think, like, you know, when it comes to events like that, they're definitely still happening, but it's probably not as special as it once was. And I'm in no way am I discrediting Carabram, because Angela, you're a homie.
Absolutely not.
But I'm just saying in general, like, I think a lot of that was very important growing up.
Yeah.
But now it's become such the norm that we're finding other ways, like these showcases, to get together and showcase diversity. Reeko, what about you, man? You're a little younger to the game. Probably the youngest one in the room. But
probably.
How does this, the fact that the city of Brampton is getting behind this? Because, you know, one thing that I could say is, you know, I've growing up around artists within my schools, within university. A lot of them always felt that they need to go to Toronto, or they needed to move to the US, need to go, you know, make those summer trips to New York, you know, go to LA, go network to really make it big. But you yourself, with some of your music, you were able to get on OVO Sound, which historically has always showcased a lot of homegrown talent. Yeah. So what does it mean to you, the fact that the city of Brampton is getting behind a showcase like the North by Northeast and has decided to really amp up some of the arts and culture that's going on in the city from a national standpoint?
Yeah, I think, you know, the city's finally starting to realize, like, that we have so much talent. You know what I mean? It's just like kind of like a few years ago when basketball really started to pick up and everybody was realizing that all the talent for basketball is in Brampton.
Yeah,
so then
exactly.
everybody was putting money into Bounce, Brampton Warriors, all these things, because
Yeah.
they're starting to realize, like, okay, no, we actually have a thing here. So I really feel like the city's finally starting to realize, like, a lot of these guys that are big, like, they all come from Brampton.
Yeah.
They have ties to Brampton. So I feel like, you know, they're ready to, like, push that culture forward, which is pretty cool for the young guys like me and for all the generations to come, you know?
Well, it's very promising,
Yeah.
right? Because I know, again, and I'm probably only a few years older than you, but I still remember like being in high school and knowing my friends that were good rappers, good
Yeah.
singers, but they just felt stuck.
Yeah.
They just felt like, how am I supposed to get on BET? How am I supposed to get on Much Music?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to get a fund for a music video? How am I supposed to do shows? And as much as you put the power on these individuals to go figure it out, like as an artist, I'm sure both of you have had moments where it's just like, you know, like Kay's phone's ringing.
Sorry.
It's all
It's
good.
actually my son. That's how
Oh, we should invite your son to the show.
Your mom.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But I was gonna say, like, it's only so much you could really do, right?
Right. Yeah.
Until it becomes very tasking and draining, and again, it's tough to be an artist.
Yeah.
It definitely is. And I still think that there is a little bit of a gap there. Like, it's not as easy as, like you said, an artist might say, oh, how can I get on BT? I mean, it's still hard.
It is, yeah.
I mean, it's still hard.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a stigma worldwide, I think. Well, maybe I shouldn't say worldwide. I'm not that versed in the stats, but
Yeah.
in America, at least.
Yeah.
I think there's a stigma, America versus Canada, that, you know, we're slow or lame. Like, we're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, we're not
yeah,
really,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
up to the par
Yeah.
with, you know, the American artists.
Oh no, you definitely saw that this week, even with the Raptors being in the finals. Like
Yeah.
all these U.S. news stations are coming to Canada,
Absolutely.
and they're poking fun at us. And, these guys
yeah.
are too polite. They're too
Yes.
this. They're too that.
too.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I just think that within our own industry, there needs to be someone or some organization or something
Yeah.
to kind of bridge that gap, to kind of make it a little bit easier for the artists to remain here. Because, I mean, we have a lot of artists that are Canadian, but they had to literally, like, leave here
Yeah, they had to
go do
They
stuff,
had to.
right? Because they didn't have the access or, you know, those connections or whatever, you know, those lead ups to get them where they needed to get.
Well, even for yourself, because, you know, we're seeing a lot of hip hop, a lot of rock, a lot of alternative, a lot of that's actually coming up in Brampton. But I had this conversation with Tanya when I was with her, when we were announcing who was a part of the showcase, which is on the North by Northeast channel. If you haven't seen the IGTV, go look at the announcement me and the lovely Tanya Mullings made to promote.
Shout out to Tanya Mo.
Yeah, shout out to
Big up
Tanya Mullings.
Tanya.
Legend in the city. Legend everywhere. But her and I had a conversation about reggae and how
Yes.
outside of Tanya, maybe Exco Levy, like reggae doesn't really get that much love as much as it deserves, because when you think about, even like, I'm a big hip hop guy, so I'm a hip hop nerd. Like patois and hip hop really, even though Drake's been doing it, and we'll get to Drake in a bit.
Yeah.
But patois and hip hop was really driven by Mishi Me when she went to New York,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
she told KRS-One about patois, right?
Yes, exactly.
So like for you, how does it feel to be on this stage representing reggae? Because that's music that obviously within the community is big, but within Brampton hasn't really seen a lot of focus unless you're an Exco Levy or a Tanya Mullings.
Right, that's true. I think in a general sense, people love reggae music. I mean, they attribute it to Jamaica, number one. And I mean, if you go to Jamaica and you go to any resorts or any type of tourist place, they really gravitate to reggae. So I'm not really sure why it's not as mainstream as it should be. But we do see evidence of the love of reggae music when we have certain festivals here and things. We see all types of races, you know, cultures indulging in reggae music. It's difficult for some reason, and I think it's because the origin of reggae is not Canadian or it's not North American.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's Caribbean.
Yeah.
So it's kind of difficult for, I think, people to just jump in. And a lot of reggae it's not fully patois. You know, just English.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
can definitely hear.
Exactly,
I mean,
100%.
one of our great legends, Bob Marley, one of my
Of course.
musical idols. I mean, the messages that he portrayed in his music, it's clear, you can understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
And the messages are even, they resonate today.
Mm-hmm.
They're the same messages that he recorded and sang way back when, and they still resonate, right?
Yeah.
So I think that having reggae on this platform is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's amazing. And I'm so happy that I'm the one that's gonna be able to deliver it for the first time. And I'm hoping that by me doing this, it opens the door for reggae to actually be a staple on the NXNE. If there's not a reggae performer, it's like, what? No, we need a reggae, like that. I'm hoping that it has that effect.
And that's something that Tanya and I were talking about when we met up, was, having someone like you on the showcase is great, because now it shows anybody who maybe is doing the music that's not out there promoting their work that, hey, I can get on a showcase like North by Northeast, because someone like Kay was on there, and she wasn't necessarily doing something that was mainstream. She's just kind of keeping it real with what she's good at and what she wants to promote.
Right.
So I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I think because there's two aspects. There's reggae and there's dancehall reggae. And dancehall reggae is the one that would more predominantly have like the patois in it, right? Because it's almost like hip hop in the terms of lyrics. Like, it's more of a talking, but in a musical form.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
Reggae, you're singing, and you're singing about whatever the issues are, or the the topic is and stuff like that. So it's maybe a little bit more easy to comprehend.
Yeah.
If you don't know the language with dancehall, you might be a little bit off. but you do have some other stars like Rihanna.
Yeah.
That she's from Barbados.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she'll drop in like some little words here and there in some of her R&B songs. You even have like the influence of reggae dancehall in music by Nicki Minaj. We know Drake, stuff like that. You just have little one word here and there and everything. And I think that's to try to connect the mainstream listeners to the culture.
Because it's in the... Yeah, it's not just in Brampton's DNA. Like, it's in the GTA's DNA. Like, you think about Toronto, Scarborough.
Exactly.
Even you go to Ajax, Pickering. Like, all those areas. Like, it's in the... It's just like when people think about South Asian music. Like, it's all... Like, it's within Brampton's sort of DNA. Right? That exists. So, no, I think it's fantastic that you're on the showcase to really represent that.
Thank you.
And then Reeko, I would say... Because, you've been definitely doing this for quite some time. But you're probably... I would say the up and comer of probably the whole bunch. You and probably Zen are like this is like the opportunity for you guys to really make a name for yourself, along with Noyz and Kay and Stay Out Late. How are you sort of thinking about this performance and how much you're going to represent the city when it comes to this big stage?
I mean, when you think about just the way Brampton's looked at, every time I step out somewhere, I always want to kind of give people a glimpse into just what the city has to offer, So with this, like, I kind of just want to go there and be me, but at the same time represent the city in a way like whoever is not from Brampton that's there is like, okay, there's something over in this.
There's something in the water.
There's something in that water in Brampton that I gotta be drinking because this guy is really lit. So I just think for me, it's always about like, making sure I represent myself and I also represent my city, like where I come from, So always thinking about that when I go on stage.
How important is that for you?
It's real important, man. It's real important. Once again, like, we have such a stigma. You know what I mean?
We're talking about earlier. Yeah.
We have such a weird stigma, and I don't know why. Yeah. So I always want to, I don't want to like change the stigma, but just kind of just give people like a different outlook. Like, you could think that about our city, but then there's a guy like this, and he's just what he is, right? So, I kind of do that.
How would you, because you've obviously been on many different platforms already, how would you sort of describe the way that these platforms reach out to you? Like, do you find that the music is always what they're reaching out to and not just the fact that you're from Brampton, or is it a mix of both? Because, there are times now, because we've seen, people like Alessia Cara and even you want to go way back, like Keisha Shante, like all these people that have blown up from the city of Brampton previously. Sometimes some people might be just looking at, this person's from Brampton, let's reach out to them because Brampton's hot right now. Yeah. So when you have like OVO Sound reaching out to want to play your music, how are they reaching out to you?
OVO sound was weird. I used to work at McDonald's back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And I was just
which one?
Sandalwood and Kennedy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know that one.
Yeah. So I was just in there and I kept getting all these messages like from different countries, in different languages. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, cause at that point Westside was doing its thing, but it was more like locally. So it was I had like 20,000 plays on like SoundCloud. But that's just like SoundCloud, right?
Yeah.
So I'm getting all these messages in my DM and I'm just like, what's going on? You know? And they just happen to play it. So what I really respect about the people at OVO is like they really have their ear to the streets and not just, you know, Toronto rap music or whatever. Like they really listen to everything that's going on in the city. Right?
Wow.
So
That's good.
that's like, I wouldn't say by chance, but it was like by chance. Like I just happened to get played. But you know, after I got played on it a couple of times and they always just reach out, like they always want to know what you're up to. Like what do you got coming? Okay, can we hear it? Boom. Okay, we want to put this on the show, you know? So that's really cool that they do. With the other platforms, like with the blogs and stuff, like coming from, forget like Brampton, forget Toronto, coming from Canada, period, like any blog in America, they have so much artists. There's so much people in America, right? So you have to really go hard. So like with the blogs, it's me like in the email, going on Twitter, finding the writers, like, you know what I mean? And then eventually, like once you get on enough blogs, then they start to contact you. But like now that I'm getting contacted by blogs and stuff, it's always like, you're from Toronto. And I always tell them like, no, I'm not from Toronto. I'm from Brampton. So I think it's like the fact that the city is hot in itself, that's what attracts them to, you know, what I have going on.
And that's what I love about this showcase is the fact that the city of Brampton realizes that. They realize that there are, you know, big time industry people that are not just listening to sort of Canada at its core, but like they're actually digging deep into the cities and the neighborhoods, and they're like, you know, who's big where and who's making movements or who's just making good music, and then they're trying to put them on, which I think is fascinating because, you know, I would say 5, maybe 10 years ago, like, would you, like, if the city had approached you to perform, would you think it'd be like on this big scale? Probably not. You're probably
a couple of years ago.
Yeah. You're probably thinking you're performing at City Hall for someone's, you know, inauguration. or even just trying to meet some type of quota, right? Some type of youth quota or some type of, you know, ethnic quota. It's like, oh yeah. Like now it's almost past that. It's like, no, we want the best of the best and we want to showcase the city because everyone deserves an opportunity.
But see, that's the thing. I think that that comment that was just made about people really digging in and reaching out, I still think that it's marginalized to certain genres. Like, I don't see them reaching out for reggae artists.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? So they'll reach out for hip-hop artists, R&B artists, pop, whatever, you know, contemporary artists. But I don't see that reach for reggae music from outside. I mean, the experience that I've had, you mentioned in the beginning that I may feel like I have to go to Jamaica or go somewhere, but it's literally the truth. Like, because a lot of people in Canada, some radio disc jockeys or even just DJs in the club, whatever, if it's almost as if Jamaica doesn't say, they don't play.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like, it's almost as if that's the god. You know what I mean? And if they don't get that okay, then they're kind of like, like, you know, they're not sure. They're not really the type to say they're gonna let them follow us. You know what I mean? They would more say, okay, in order for us to be like on top or current, whatever, we have to follow them.
That's so fascinating because, again, it's almost like you have to get that endorsement from home for you to even be considered here.
Exactly.
But then you have, and we'll get into Drake in a bit, because I think Drake's going to come up a lot. But then you have people like Drake that are openly making, you know, dance hall style music or reggae style music or using reggae style melodies in a lot of his music. And you're seeing that across the board. Like Tory Lanez is doing the same thing.
Everybody's doing it.
Like everyone's doing it. Everyone's taking that type of melody. They're remaking old reggae songs, making them current.
Exactly.
Like it's just so conflicting.
The thing is, I think it's because they are who they are, so they get away with it.
They get away with it,
right? Like if I try to just say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that, and then I just try to push it out there, they're going to be like, who's this? Like, who's this girl? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, but as soon as the name Drake is attached to it, or Tory Lanez, or somebody that's already, you know, in mainstream, it's gone.
So for someone like Kay, like how have you stayed true and stayed above that? Like when you're going out there and you're showcasing your music, you know, the vibe I get from you, even just kind of reading about you and listening to your music, is that you've always stayed true. Like you never decided to go pop or go commercial. You love your music and you stayed with it. Absolutely. But how are you going about, like, how have you gone about kind of promoting it? And now that the city's recognizing, you know, your talent, how are you? What's the plan after Friday? Like, how are you going to kind of utilize your relationship with the city to further sort of this movement, not just for you, but for the actual reggae music type?
Well, I mean, I'm definitely hoping that, you know, there's some like people in the audience that
there will be.
But no, I mean, every experience for me is an experience. It's another step on the ladder, right? So I always try to use every experience to my full advantage. Basically trying to build a portfolio of, you know, things that I've done, places I've gone, interviews that I've done, like just try to build that portfolio, because at the end of the day too, you have to be appealing to promoters' eyes, or, you know, a record, like you have to be appealing. They have to be able to pull up K Music and see, okay, what is she, you know, what's she doing, right? So you have to kind of keep your portfolio full. The steps that I've taken is to try to get on some good productions, because I think when someone hears your music, you know, if it sounds like you did it in your basement, but in the bathroom, like it's, as opposed to,
which happens. I've actually recorded a podcast in a washroom.
Yeah,
so we all start over there.
Don't ask.
Oh yeah, I've done it too. But
the acoustics.
Exactly. But I've actually heard a radio disc jock tell me that, you know, he gets a lot of music, but the ones that he would actually like play, it's because the production is good, right? Because he says like a million people will say, "Oh, my music's good," and then when he listens to it, it's just something that they kind of threw together. They didn't really put that much time and effort. Yeah. They didn't have the right beat. They didn't have, like, you know, whatever. Certain things weren't correct. So I've been blessed to be on a couple of great productions with some really talented producers that are connected to other people. So, for example, I have a song called Chatty Mouth, and it's on the Love Train rhythm, and that's produced by Nebulous Records, who is the guitarist for Stephen Marley, right? So the connection there, and I recorded that song in the legendary Tough Gong Studios.
Really? Wow.
Right? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so, I mean, great production, and also I'm very proud of that because I'm the only female and the only Canadian. And there's a lot of
good for you.
Huge artists on there, huge reggae artists on there, and then there's me, right? So, you know,
who's also huge, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm so, like, happy that I was chosen to do that.
That's amazing.
Right? And, you know, a couple other productions with Jack Hure and Christopher Martin, which are some big names in reggae, too. So having that right production is what I always try to aim for. And then in terms of writing my music, I think music, it's good to have trendy music, but it's great to have music that will last. Classic music that will last, right? So, I mean, as I mentioned before, Bob Marley, it will never die. Like, his music will never die.
It's always current.
Right.
Always current.
Right? Because the message it's alive. Right? So it will never die. So trying to incorporate songs like that, I try to write real life situations, or maybe based on a friend's, excuse me.
It's okay. It's that season right now. Trust me. I'm going to have to bring some Neocitra next time.
Yeah, right? Oh, trust me. I walk with like a Chloroseptic spray every time I perform. Yeah,
I feel you.
Right. But yeah, just, you know, sometimes I get around people, and, you know, I hear like common issues, and then I can take those issues and write about them. Because I know that even though 5 people are telling me, there's millions of people that can relate to the same thing. So relatable music is always what I try to make sure that I put forth.
You know, here's my hope, and then we got to go to commercial breaks. I do want to talk about the Drake effects. I think Drake's come up quite a lot in this conversation. My hope is that with artists like you, we got, you know, obviously Exco and Tanya, who've gone into the Brampton Walk of Fame. Like, I'm almost thinking, because of the talent, like, why isn't Brampton sort of the hub for reggae music? within the GTA? I think it's possible because there's so much talent there. Like, why can't we work towards that?
Everything is possible.
Yeah.
But as I said, I believe that there's something bigger than us. Like, I think that there has to be a bridge that's bigger than us. Something that will highlight the fact that there's so much talent in Brampton, other than us just saying it, or other than us just maybe putting on a showcase once a year. There has to be something where upcoming artists can have that access to everything, everyone, the same access that everybody else has is like in the States or whatever. Like, just, I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm just talking off the top of my head.
No, but it's great perspective.
Yeah, but I mean, there has to be, like, there's a divide there. There's something that's missing. Something. I don't know what it is. I don't know if we need more international scouts, like, that can forward music to, I don't know. I don't know. But I just feel like there's something missing there. There's something. I am a reggae artist, but I'm also a very versatile artist. You know, I'm a singer. So I sing anything with a melody. Right? Like, I mean, I have, I did an R&B collaboration with an artist who was in Trinidad. I say was because unfortunately he passed away, but I did an R&B collaboration. And my theory on this is that I want to be able to fit in everywhere. Yeah, exactly. You understand? So if Reeko's having a R&B show, he can say, oh, yeah, I know Kay. She has a couple. So, you know, she can perform two or three tracks at this. You know, I never want to be isolated from something because I don't do that. You understand? So, yeah. No, I like that. Definitely, Reeko, do a reggae song. Do a reggae track.
Do something.
but you know what? Speaking of R&B and not wanting to be classified in one area, you know, it's no secret we do have to talk about Drake. And the reason why I want to talk about Drake is not because he's, you know, causing mischief for the Golden State Warriors right now. Is he getting ready for game 2? Is he ready for game 2?
That's a Drake for that.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. But, you know, it's no secret that Drake himself, he's been on top now for 10 years. And he's been able to do R&B, hip-hop, add in some fusion of reggae, add in some fusion of some African Afro beats as well. Like, he's been able to really kind of flip flop and use a lot of these sounds to his advantage to stay on top and stay popular. And a lot of artists feel, and again, I want to get both your theories on this. A lot of artists feel that if it wasn't for Drake, that maybe there wouldn't have been an ear for Canadian artists really in the mainstream. You know, a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people also don't feel that way, and they feel like Canadian artists have always been on, but it was just, you know, the perfect time and the perfect place for him to get big and to make that happen. And you know, obviously within the city of Brampton, you know, sure, we look at Drake as being sort of one of the main stars, but in the city of Brampton, we've had, you know, Alessia Cara, Keisha Shante, Russell Peters, if you want to throw him in there from the world of comedy, Exco Levy and reggae. Like, you've had so many different artists that have sort of paved the way. But for me, as a fan, it always just comes back to Drake, and it always comes back to just what he's been able to do in the industry and the eyes that he's been able to put on Toronto and the GTA. So I wanted to get your theory on the Drake effect, whether you think it actually is real. And we're going to get Reeko to put his headphones back on.
I was trying to be discreet.
No, whatever.
Sometimes the headphones just do too much. You know?
I feel like Reeko just wants to spit a verse or something.
No.
But I want to ask you, man. Like, let's start with you. Do you feel like the Drake effect is real, and do you feel like a lot of what he's done has allowed you to, you know, I'm not saying he's given you permission, but you know, the sort of the base that he's been able to put out there. Has it made it easier for an artist like you to kind of get your music out there and be heard in other parts of the world outside of Brampton?
Yeah, for sure. The Drake effect is real, man. Anybody who says otherwise, I don't know, man. Yeah. I think you're living under a rock or something. The other thing, like, for me, like, I grew up in the church as well. So, like, my whole life I was listening to church music. Only time I'd ever catch a glimpse of, like, what we used to call secular was on the radio. Like,
wow,
you know?
Really?
So by chance, my mom turned on the radio, I'd hear a little bit, you know? So I think around age 13, 14, that's the first time I heard a Drake song. And I was just like, who's this guy? Like, you know? And I remember I searched up the lyrics. It was to the song with Trey Songz. I think it was Replacement Girl. It's called. And I searched up the lyrics, and I'm like, oh, this guy's from Toronto. And at the time I was living in Montreal. I'm like, he's from Canada, and he's on the radio. And he's on TV, too. He's on BET.
It was like unbelievable.
Yeah,
right?
I used to catch BET at my aunt's house. So it was like, that to me just gave me hope. And immediately I was inspired. I love music right away. Oh, I want to do music. He's from Canada and he could sing and rap too. Or I could do that too, you know? Yeah. So that's when like I really started to fall in love with the music. So, you know, even when when you go into these label meetings, you talk to blogs, you talk to A&Rs, whatever it is, like they are all so interested because, okay, we want to find the next Drake. Like, you know, Canada has that thing. Yeah. Like, you know, Canada has something. So we want to find the next Drake. Whether not necessarily like what he does in terms of sound, but just the next Canadian artist that could really, you know, be marketable to the whole world. Totally. So I definitely feel like, you know, what he was able to do, it really opened the door for everybody. Because not everybody, like, look how much artists from Toronto are like at a real level. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And a lot of them are, you know, affiliated with them too. Yeah. And they've just had that sort of halo
like
effect.
By default, right?
By default,
you can't really get out of, I don't even think you can get out of Canada without having Drake's name attached to you. And that's also because of the way they handle, you know, the fact, like, they know, I feel like that whole camp, like the OVO camp, they understand, like, hey, like, you know, we're essentially the mega hub for Canadian music. So they really try and make sure that they're able to push things to the forefront and catch it before anybody else does. You know?
Exactly.
Which is a good thing because, you know, they have the means to do so, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great point that you bring up. And honestly, what I find fascinating as being a fan of just Canadian hip hop is that Cardinal Official was doing similar stuff like earlier on. Sean Claire was doing stuff earlier on. And I remember as a kid seeing like once or twice their videos being played on BET and just feeling so proud because I you know, these guys are making videos on areas that I've actually been to and it felt surreal. But for some reason, to your point, Reeko, like Drake just had it. Like he just had something, and maybe it was the fact that, you know, he maybe had the right people because of his TV career. But I think a lot of it, to your point, has to do with maybe the versatility.
Versatility, I think also too. Well, I wouldn't know because I don't even think I was born. Like, I don't know. I'm 21. You guys let me know, but you know, I feel like
youth.
Really? I'm a little youth, you know?
I could be your mama.
But no, I definitely feel like, I don't know, like you let me know, but when Cardinal Official or Shaw Claire, where they're doing their thing, like, I feel like when you catch it, you have to know what to do with it.
Exactly.
And like Drake caught it, and he knew what to do with it. Because Drake could have just kept doing the whole, like, you know, he could have kept just, because remember, I don't know if you know, like when he came out, he was Houston, like that was his sound. Like,
you know,
H-Town, you know. Very much. But when he caught that mega buzz, like he immediately went back to the city. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And started talking like us and putting our skits on the album. And then, you know, he started pushing out The Weeknd. And so I feel like when you catch it, like anybody from anywhere, like from Brampton too, like when we catch it, we got to know what to do with it. We can't just start to run off and be like, downtown Toronto. Like, my biggest thing, I want to do a concert at the Powerade Center.
Oh, okay.
Right off Kennedy.
Wow.
5,000 people.
That's sweet.
Why am I going to go into Toronto?
Yeah.
You know, go to our Echo, wherever, Echo Beach, or for what? I can just go back to the city. So, you know? So I really feel like in terms of, like, you know, pushing your city forward, it's always about what you do with the buzz that you have. Like, you know, and I really feel like they handled it well. Yeah. Like, they really did. And now, like, everybody's looking to us for talent. Because he decided, I want to put out The Weeknd. And then The Weeknd said, let's do Nav. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like, and then he said, let's do Roy. And it's like, it just kept going, you know?
That's it.
I feel like that's what it was.
Okay, what about you? Because you obviously, like, you know, you've been at it way before, I guess, Drake even came onto the scene. So when he came on and he was, you know, doing stuff that was more focused around reggae and R&B, like, how did that make you feel? And are you... like, have you sort of come to terms, like, with the fact of being able to kind of utilize sort of what he's been able to do in bettering your career? Or have you always just thought about it differently and you're like, no matter what, K-music is K-music?
Yeah, I don't think Drake has any impact on my personal...
well, I guess the other question I have is, how do you feel about him using reggae influences in his records? Like, what's your honest thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's cool. But I also... think it could be a little. It's commercially like it's not authentic reggae. You understand? But I think it's cool because it's, as I said, it still connects people to the culture of reggae music. So it's cool. Like, I don't have any issues with when people do that at all. I definitely agree that Drake had a very big influence on. Anybody outside of Toronto, outside of Canada, looking into our city. Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with Reeko. Like, anybody who says that, they're just being a hater. Yeah. Like, it's clear, right? I do believe, I agree also too, with both of your comments about him having it and knowing what to do with it. But then I also think it comes back to what we've been saying earlier in the conversation, is that he couldn't have done it on his own,
No.
right? And I was around with Chaclair and Cardinal, like know them personally, and I think that maybe they didn't. Well, I wouldn't so much say, because Cardinal, I believe he got to a different. Definitely in a good. He's on a good platform.
Cardinal is what I love about Cardinal is he's really truly like the Toronto ambassador.
Yes.
And it's funny, he's
really
Toronto to the bone.
Because I was at the Raptors game on Thursday, game 1, and he came out during a timeout.
He performed, right?
Yeah, he performed T.O. and T.O. Anthem and all that, and it was so hype. And I remember going on social media after, and a lot of the U.S. people knew who Cardinal was.
Yeah, they're definitely going to know him.
Yeah.
And that's why, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful way, but he can't, I don't really compare him to Chaclair. I mean, they start out in the same time period.
Yeah.
But Cardi, as much as he may not be doing the albums and all that, he still took that elevation that he got, and he's still doing things. Because, I mean, for you to be able to perform at the NBA final, like, I mean,
it's big.
come on. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, you know, just like other artists, a lot of artists kind of fell off along the way, either because they didn't have the right connections. You know, they had a hype, but they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't have anybody to kind of push them.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to as being an artist, like financially as well. Like if you don't have that backing, you know what I mean? It's hard. So that could definitely stifle you. But yeah, big up Drake. Like he definitely put Toronto out there.
I think it's like the foresight too, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, back in the day, like I don't know if they were thinking like, yeah, we could like take over the world with Canadian rap music. Like, so like I don't know if they actually were able to see it. Like I really feel like Drake and that camp, like they really saw it. They were like, yeah, we could do this for real. We can make this like a worldwide thing. And then they just said, okay, we caught it. Now we know what to do, right?
But I'll go back to say that Drake had to leave here.
He did. He did
had
have to leave
here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of the fact that it's very difficult here in Canada, once again, because I don't know if we don't have the right supports or whatever to get us to that big break. But I know at the time he had to leave. And it wasn't just urban. I mean, Justin Bieber did it. He had to leave.
Yeah.
Like, you know, people had to.
He got signed by Usher, I think.
Yeah.
Like the Echo. Yeah.
Once
People
again,
had
it's
to
the
leave.
foresight, right? Like, even me, like, until I heard Drake, I couldn't even imagine being, like, a worldwide superstar out of Canada, out of Montreal, Canada. Like, I couldn't, you know what I mean? But I think it's different now. Like, my little brother, who's, like, 9 or 11 or whatever, like, he could sit there and be like, yeah, I could be Drake one day. Like, I could be from Toronto and be the biggest artist in the world.
Yeah, like, the whole narrative's changed,
yeah,
right?
Everything's changed.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of that goes to, like, to your point, Kay, like, resources.
Resources.
I remember, like, Cardinal, Shock, Socrates, everybody being on Much Music and doing and being at the Junos and putting on Canadian hip hop.
Yep.
But then to your point, maybe it was a resource thing where like things just dwindled down. And again, when Drake blew up was like sort of the beginning of like the social media era.
Yeah.
Like I didn't hear Successful by Drake until somebody on my Facebook posted it, and I was like,
Facebook and Twitter.
That's the guy from Degrassi. Like, what is he doing? Like, why does this actually sound good? Like, I remember just Wheelchair Jimmy, right?
Yeah.
We actually, and you know what? I'm actually curious to see what Drake does at the Raptors game later on tonight.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, he's so jokes. We actually have a couple minutes left, and I want to just close off by, again, I did this with Zen and Noyz. I'll do it with you too. Is this Friday's a big day. It's a big day. North by Northeast. This is Brampton Showcase. Just want to ask the both of you, and Kay, we'll begin with you. What can the listeners, what can they expect from your performance this coming Friday, considering that you yourself are going to be really representing reggae music?
Okay, well, I'll tell all the listeners, everybody that's coming, I'm going to bring no God Jamaica. All right? If you don't understand, I'm going to bring you to Jamaica. Okay?
She have to explain that.
Break it down for him.
Yeah, no, I'm going to just get you grooving. Some nice reggae music. I probably throw in a couple, dancehall tracks, but definitely once you leave there, you'll be happy. I always put my heart and soul on the stage.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So yeah, you'll have something to look forward to.
Amazing. Reeko, this is a big day for you, man. This Friday, North by Northeast.
Yeah.
What can people expect from a Reeko Rieffe showcase this at the Hideout this Friday?
Listen, they messed up because they gave me like more than enough time, so you can expect to be jumping up and down, expect to, cry, expect to be in your feelings. Like, I really go to shows and I rock star shit up. What, can I curse?
No, you can't curse.
I rock star stuff up, excuse me. I rock star stuff up, so just expect like a real experience, man. Best show you'll ever be to in your life.
Yeah.
What about the showcase? Do we have to not say certain words or?
I don't know.
I hope not.
Sure about that? Okay, let's find that out.
What I'll do is I'll email Gage from the city and I'll ask him.
Shout out to Gage.
I think the fact that
Gage.
yeah, shout out to Gage. I think the fact that it's happening late at night, my assumption tells me no, but we can always double check later.
Yeah. Okay.
But I want to thank the both of you for joining me here on today's episode of New Theory Radio. That's again K Music and Reeko Rieffe. You can catch them this Friday at the Hideout at This Is Brampton North by Northeast Showcase. Tickets are available on northbynortheast.com, or I think it's NXNE.com. And we'll be right back. Actually, we'll be joined by Mike Richards from the morning show. We're going to talk about the Toronto Raptors in Game 2, which is taking place in approximately an hour and 10 minutes. We'll be right back here on New Theory Radio on Saga 960.
You're listening to News Talk Saga 960. Also streaming live on saga960am.ca.
When I falter the altar and call for a.
And we are back here on New Theory Radio on Saga 960. It's your host, Nav Nanwa. Thank you so much for joining us on this inaugural episode. We've had a blast talking with artists I'll be performing at the This Is Brampton North by Northeast Showcase, which is taking place at the Hideout this Friday. Big thank you to Noyz, Zenesoul, K Music, as well as Reeko Rieffe for joining me for the last 2 hours as we theorized on a lot of Brampton topics. And if you missed the episode, it will be available on Spotify and iTunes tomorrow. And again, New Theory Radio is every Sunday from 5 to 7 p.m. This is the first episode. And yes, I'm super excited to be here. And I'm super excited about the Raptors playoff game. I'm a huge Raptors fan. I actually got to go to game 1 and ended up remortgaging my house because of it. But I'm going to be talking to somebody right now. He is no stranger to Saga 960. You're probably going to recognize this voice because he probably wakes you up each and every morning with his homie David. It is Mike Richards joining me on the inaugural episode of New Theory Radio. Mike, thank you so much. I'm very honored that you're coming on the show.
I think I'm on the air, but I don't know.
No, you are. You are in the air. I can hear you.
I am on the air? Okay, so I can't hear you through the phone, but I will tell you that I am very pumped for tonight. I think it's going to be a difficult issue for the Raptors in that, it's an easy question, but it's a hard one. That is, can you win 3 more games? Because they have to do the exact same thing that they did in game number 1, and that is to stop that track meet team and getting out into transition, because once they run, they're going to be in a really bad mood. I expect a ferocious performance from Golden State. Just so you know, I can hear probably everybody that's talking in the background over the phone.
Oh, okay.
So I can't hear the air feed.
Oh, okay. So I think they're looking to fix that right now, but we're going to keep it going. But no, to your point, Mike, I definitely agree. I think game 2 will be an interesting one. I was actually at game 1. I think I remember speaking to you in the morning and telling you that I was contemplating it. I ended up biting the bullet and actually getting tickets. And it's, it was quite the game. I was definitely surprised by the outcome. I was definitely surprised at the fact that the Raptors came in as strong as they did. But I remember the post-game press conference, especially when they were talking to Clay, and I think Steve Kerr and company are going to come back pretty hard tonight and are going to show us just the strong unit that they are when it comes to the finals, and just how important these games are to their franchise.
The whole thing is going to boil down to defense. As much as people are always going to want to talk about the Splash Brothers, are going to want to talk about, just historically how good, Steph is. But the reality is it's going to be the Draymond Greens. They're going to be the difference makers, just like it was Pascal Siakam for the Raps in game number 1. It comes down to stops, because they can all. In fact, this is a Raptor team that can score. And you saw, Marc Gasol, who played like all those Europeans, which means they will loft that 3 if you don't cover them. But they got some open looks. I just don't think you're going to see that game tonight. So if the Raptors got to hang on, because there is no loss of composure at all on a team that has hands filled with rings, and this is going to be ferocious. But to me, the key will be, they figured out a way to slow Kawhi down, which isn't a surprise. But if the bench and the support players and Fred VanVleet, if they can do what they did last time, Kyle Lowry, it's still going to be a heavyweight fight in some ways. But man, I'll tell you what, it's the D and the Raptors. Sadly, it's a hard question, but they have to do exactly and play exactly the same level, which they can, but they've got to do it, 3 more times. They do it 3 more times, they hoist the trophy.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And a lot of people that I've been speaking to were saying that if the Raps are going to have any type of chance with winning the NBA Finals, they're going to have to win 2 back-to-back, which means that they would have to win today's game. But I'm definitely in agreement with you. I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be a game that's going to be heavily relied on defense. And, you mentioned D, obviously, but I want to talk about another D, and that's Drake. I know you and David had some fun on Friday discussing Drake's performance at Game 1. I was actually there live, and I got to see him pestering Draymond Green and Steph Curry, especially when Draymond was leaving. It sounds like Drake and Draymond have pieced it out, but what do you think the Drake factor will be for tonight's game? Because I think he's going to play quite the big role, even though some Toronto fans don't like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's the influence isn't zero. It's not nothing. I know, and I think, as I said before, it's a bit of a generational thing where you go to the game and you let the game be the star, not the other way around. But it was enough to be a situation where, you have international press talking about it. Now, and I will say this, as much as some of the other, I'll let you call them shenanigans that have been happening on the sidelines, I'm not huge on it. It's just, again, I think just the way people kind of grow up in the age group that it is. But if it was always like what he did in Game 1, I'll be honest, I like what he did in Game 1. Mm-hmm. So if it looks similar, if he trolls him with like another jersey, like he did with his dad, man, I'll tell you what, now just before I got to go, because I know you're coming to the top of the hour. How's it going? How are you sitting there Are you feeling good about the show? Because it sounds great. Oh,
yes, I definitely am. And again, I could see why you and Dave had such a fun time here at the studio, because it's truly a very comfortable environment. And again, I'm very grateful to be a part of the team, and very grateful to be speaking to you, someone who's been quite the legend within AM radio. It's a pleasure to be on the same team as you. Hopefully I'm not the Drake to Saga 960, but...
Well, look, have fun. I know you're going to get a chance to watch the game, and good luck with your show, because I know you're going to do great.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it. That's Mike Richards. You can hear him each and every morning here on Saga 960 AM. Him and David Bastille are always up to a lot of fun every single day here at the radio station. And this pretty much concludes the first inaugural episode, hopefully not the final, of New Theory Radio here on Saga 960. Again, my name is Nav Nanwa. I'm very grateful that you joined us. And again, special shout out
New Theory Radio.
Attention all insurance agents with a current life or medical insurance license. SelectQuote has immediate openings for licensed insurance agents looking to build a rewarding career. And you can even work from the comfort of your home. Our average employee makes $75,000, and our top performers make well over $150,000 per year. Yes, I said $150,000. Insurance professionals, are you sick of looking and paying for leads? Would you like to have more than one product or carrier solution to offer? Do you wish that your entrepreneurial spirit and hard work was rewarded? If you answered yes, and you feel you have what it takes, SelectQuote is looking for you. With a fun and fast work environment, multiple products, pre-qualified leads, and great training, this is an opportunity you do not want to miss. Apply online at selectquote.com/careers or call 800-896-9009 to learn more. SelectQuote is hiring right now. Don't miss out. Call 800-896-9009 or visit selectquote.com/careers. Call 800-896-9009. 800-896-9009.